What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. It's time to look ahead to the final Champions League game of the league phase, and I'm delighted to be joined by Luke from the Up the Villa channel. Luke, thanks for taking the time to join us today, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, great to be here, mate. Like I said earlier, I'll put my colours on for you, so I fit in with your backdrop. But it is a Villa badge, by the way, not a Celtic. But yeah, great to be here.
If you don't know already, I've been on Luke's channel last week. So if you haven't had enough of me talking about Celtic, you can find more of it over on Luke's channel. I'll link that up in the description. Luke, first of all, I think most Celtic fans are very familiar with Villa, the manager, the players. But I suppose if we just start with the form you guys are in just now and your game at the weekend, which I managed to catch some of against West Ham, what was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're playing okay. We're not playing, I don't think, to our full capabilities. We're having a bit of a tough time of sort of just managing where we are and what we're competing with. But we are doing pretty well. I mean, we're in 8th place in the Premier League, about 4 points off 4th. The Premier League's really tight and congested. Champions League, we're doing really well in that. We've got the opportunity to get into the top 8, which would be absolutely massive. I'd probably say the most difficult part about our Champions League campaign has been the game after a Champions League game. We've really struggled a little bit. So we're having a good season. We're still in the Champions League. We're still fighting for what we want to fight for in the Premier League. We're still in the FA Cup. But obviously it's just not as sort of free-flowing as what it probably was last year. And I think that's probably where some Villa fans are probably feeling a little bit frustrated. But I think we've got everything to play for. And yeah, looking forward to it.
I wonder what it's like for a Villa fan. If I think about the journey Villa have been on, I mean, in relatively recent memory, you guys were in the Championship, and then back up in the Premier League. You obviously recently had Steven Gerrard, where again you sort of went towards the bottom of the table, and now you've got Emery and you're qualified for the Champions League. It seems like a bit of a roller coaster the last few years.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, go back to when we was in the Championship and we got relegated from the Premier League. We were really struggling and we got galvanised by Dean Smith, a manager that was a Villa fan through and through. We got Jack Grealish, a Villa fan, and we're able to get into the Premier League. We stabilised. I actually think it's Celtic's fault we got Steven Gerrard, because had you have got the 10 in a row, then we wouldn't have probably had Gerrard. So it's your fault. But we had to go through that and it was a disaster. And then we ended up with Unai Emery, and when he came in, he took over from Steven Gerrard, and we were near the relegation zone. Took us straight up to the Europa Conference League in half a season, which was amazing. Villa hadn't had European football for so many years, and then followed that up last year with getting us to qualify for the Champions League. So the trajectory that we've been on under Unai Emery has just been nothing short of remarkable, really, to improve most players that Gerrard had, and to compete now in the Champions League has been absolutely mental. And for me as a Villa fan, I've not seen us win anything, so this is probably the best it's ever been for me, seeing us competing in the Champions League and up the top end of the Premier League.
Believe me, we don't need to feel any more guilt about letting 10 in a row go than we already do.
Sorry to bring it up.
In terms of the Champions League, then, as you just said, it's a relatively new experience for you. I know Villa have got a great European history. How have you found the experience of the Champions League this season?
Yeah, I've loved it. I mean, dining at the table that we've dined at, you've won the Champions League. We've won the European Cup as it was known in '82. So we've got quite a good history. So we won it in '82, was our first ever season in it. '83, we got to the quarterfinals. So we've never been outside of the quarterfinals in it. So hopefully that could bode well going into it. But yeah, it's been amazing. We got off to a great start against Young Boys. We beat them 3-0. And then we had Bayern Munich at home as our first home game. And that was the team that we beat in the '82 final. So it felt really special / weird that they were the team that we were playing first at Villa Park. And I mean, what a night that was. We beat them 1-0, beat them 1-0 in the final in '82 as well. So football's just weird how it comes together like that. And then we've done all right. We drew with Juventus at home. We beat Bologna at home, beat Leipzig away around Christmas time, which was a big result. And then we've we threw in a stinker against Club Brugge. And then we had an even bigger stinker last week when we played Monaco, where we really had a chance to sort of cement the top 8 position, and we didn't take our opportunity. And we were all thinking, oh no, we've blown it now. We can't get top 8. But the day after, Bayern Munich lose and a couple of other teams lose. That sort of gives us this chance of being able to make the top 8. So it's been pretty good, really.
Just funny you say that, talking about the coming full circle against Bayern Munich. We played Young Boys last week, and Celtic have only faced Young Boys one time before in our history. And in the game at Celtic Park in 1993, we won 1-0, and it was a comical own goal. And that's exactly how we won the game last week. So football does have a funny way at times. In terms of how Emery's approached these Champions League games, has there been much rotation, would you say, from what you guys consider full strength in the Premier League?
No, not really. He's been quite intense. Most of the games they're quite tactical. The 2 we've lost, we've sort of, I don't know. You'd give praise to the opposition, but I think it was more us being really, really bad than the opposition absolutely like destroying us, really. But the Juventus game at home was like 0-0, and it was just so intense. It was such a tactical battle with midfield, and nobody gave an inch. And I actually really enjoyed that game, even though it was 0-0. It was just a really good battle. And then the Bayern game was very intense as well, because we was having to do a bit of defending / counter-attacking and managing those players. So, Emery's just got a lot of experience in Europe. He's got a lot of know-how. He's won the Europa League however many times. And yeah, he's just really good on that stage. So, not much rotation, pretty full strength every single game.
In terms of the team, then, I know that Tyrone Mings went off at the weekend, and you maybe have a bit of a problem at centre half. I know that on your channel, when I was talking about the big players for Celtic, I mentioned Cameron Carter-Vickers. He didn't train today, so it looks like we might have a wee issue at centre half as well. We've also lost Kyogo in the last few days. He's gone to Rennes. So, in terms of your lineup, what do you think the big challenges will be on Wednesday? You think it is centre half that's a big issue?
Yeah, definitely. We already have Pau Torres missing, who's one of our best players from centre half, so he's not playing. Then Mings looks like he's out, so we're going to have to reshuffle that area. He played Luca Dean there against West Ham, who's a left back, so he did okay. Emery really likes a left footer on the left side. How we build up and how we play, it's really important to have a ball playing centre half, especially on that left side. So that is probably like the biggest concern we've got really going into it. Everybody else is fit apart from Barkley and Onana. So we'll have Kamara, Tielemans, John McGinn. So they should be able to cope with the midfield as well. So, yeah, it's just our centre-back that's a bit of an issue.
Who do you think he's going to play there? Do you think he's going to go with Dean again?
Oh, he's done his interview today, and he said that Mings might play. But right. Jacob Ramsey has done an interview, and he said that he's out for a few weeks. So, I mean, I think the Ramsey's obviously made a mistake and said that he's out. So I think he's mentioned Bogard, who's a young player that we've got could play there, but he's played Digne in there in a couple of pre-season games, like testing things. So I think he might go with Digne in there.
And in the forward positions, in terms of danger men, copious amounts of them from my point of view. Leon Bailey, Morgan Rodgers, Watkins, Duran. Who do you think it will be in that sort of front three?
Yeah, so I imagine it will be Watkins up top. Might be McGinn off Watkins, Bailey on the right, and then it could be Rodgers or Ramsey on the left. But Rodgers is one of our best players, ball carrying, picks it up from deep, very strong, able to dribble. We play quite sort of through the centre of the pitch, so we do go wide, but we do a lot of our stuff with vertical passes straight through teams. So like a ball into Tielemans on a half turn, we'll fire it into Rodgers, who then finds Watkins. So that's how we sort of try and progressively play as well. So, but yeah, I think a lot of our forward line are sort of in decent form. Watkins is in form. Rodgers is playing well. Bailey's a bit hit and miss, and McGinn's coming back from injury. So we've got good options. Ramsey's looking good. He took his goal well against West Ham. So our forward line is pretty full strength, really.
Just talking about that build-up play, I saw that at the weekend in the first half where Tielemans receives it in the edge of the box and he plays that pass straight through the middle of the pitch to Rodgers, and you were in at West Ham. John McGinn, we spoke about him on your channel. Celtic obviously chased him back when he was at Hibs. And I suppose back then he was an out-and-out central midfield player. Do you think if he is going to play tomorrow, it's more likely to be off of one side coming in than it is as a central midfield player?
Yeah, I mean the beauty with him in Emery's sort of plans is that he can play anywhere. He plays on the right. He can play as sort of like a CDM, central midfielder, off Watkins. So he literally covers every blade of grass, as you probably well know. But I do think he might go off Watkins because he presses quite well. And then if he needs to, he can drop into sort of like a central midfield position as well. So I think he's been what we've sort of been lacking at recently, really. His leadership, his tenacity, his drive. I think generally if Villa play well, if McGinn plays well, Villa play well. If Rodgers plays well, Villa play well. So those are like some of our key players that if we're on it, if McGinn's doing his little butt roll and he's rolling round players and, keeping hold of the ball well, then Villa have sort of got a good spring in their step, really.
In terms of the forward areas for us, I said that Dice Maeda is suspended. We've lost Kyogo, so it's not going to be our first choice, strongest front three at the minute. When I think about us trying to hurt you guys defensively, I can't get by the goalkeeper because I think Martinez is top class. He's obviously a bit of an enigma. Just what have you made of him and his impact at Aston Villa?
Yeah, he's just absolutely massive. He's integral to the mentality of the football club. You win a World Cup and you cement your status as a god in football, don't you? Really, and the way that he did it, keeping out that French striker with that save that he made.
That's one of the best saves of all time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible, and he does that save quite a lot. It's not like one save wonder. So he's just absolutely massive. You just want that mentality, and he's won the Yashin Trophy, so it's basically the Ballon d'Or version of goalkeepers twice in a row now. So, we value him as the best goalkeeper in the world. So I think as anyone would when they're your own, you appreciate them, but he's a big shithouse as well. Like
yes.
he loves it. He absolutely loves it. We played Lille in the Conference League last year, and I think it was the quarterfinals, and he just got so much stick. It was unbelievable, and the abuse he was getting. And then when it went to penalties, he's like dancing in front of their home end, like before we have a penalty shootout. But it's what gets him going. It's what sort of like keeps him motivated during a game. So he absolutely loves it. But your goalkeeper, by the way, Villa fans have a bit of beef with him as well. So
okay.
The Villa fans don't like him. No, we don't like him. So he'll probably get a little bit of stick, to be fair. So yeah.
What's the story there?
Just like when he was at Leicester, he was just a bit of a whinger, and he'd take his time. And I remember we scored a goal, and he only had one hand on the ball. And Ramsey took the ball off him, and I just remember like it all kicked off after that moment. So when just something so little can create something quite big within a rivalry of a player. So yeah, don't expect to have boos and jeers every time he touches the ball.
Yeah. That's a sort of a nice link then in terms of facing Schmeichel at Leicester. How have you found facing Brendan Rodgers' sides in the Premier League?
think okay. I'm sure Emery has got quite a good record. Don't hold me to that, but I think he's got quite a good record on him.
I
But
just sorry to interject there, right? But I know that included in that record is games from when Emery was at PSG and they absolutely battered us twice.
so okay, so I think that probably ties into like that area of it as well. But I mean, he was smashing it, wasn't he, at Leicester? You know, they won the FA Cup, and I think that probably would have been the time when Villa was sort of trying to build back up a little bit to get into be the club that we sort of are now. So we probably would have struggled in that moment. But yeah, I really like him. I think he's hard working, and he just seems like a real likable guy. And you know, he's smashing it with you guys. And yeah, he's just a good coach, isn't he? I think that's a good part about him, and I think he's quite honest and hard working, and you kind of know what you're going to get from him.
So in terms of, we've talked about centre half for you guys, is there any weaknesses you feel in how the team plays, or areas that Celtic might be able to exploit?
Yeah, get your first shot on target, because we concede so many goals from the first shot on target. I think it must be up to about 15 goals now this season. So that's 15 different games where we've conceded off the first shot on target. We did it against West Ham in the 70th minute. So that's been a big problem with our defending this season. But then in the Champions League, we're quite good at defending. So I'm not really sure what goes on in the Premier League compared to the Champions League. But yeah, first shot on target, watch it. Because I called this in the FA Cup, and I was doing one of these with an opposition fan, and I was like, first shot on target, we'll concede. And then we conceded it, and he texted me, and he was like, oh my God, it's the first shot on target. And I'm like, it happens every time. So, yeah, so whoever shoots first, it's probably got to make sure it's a good strike.
I like that. I like that. So in terms of the atmosphere, how has it been in the Champions League this season? Obviously, quite a new experience for most of your generation of fans, I suppose. How does it compare to the standard Premier League game? And what do you think it'll be like tomorrow night?
Yeah, it's completely different. You know, sometimes you have those Premier League games that might be on at like 3 o'clock in Saturday afternoon, or I don't know. It's just, you know, when the vibe's just probably not quite there at times. But the Champions League, it's just loud from the get-go. And, you know, as a fan that's never been watching Villa in the Champions League, hearing that anthem just gets you going every time. It's special, and it sort of hits a bit differently, doesn't it, when you're playing in the Champions League up against elite teams, the best teams in Europe. So I imagine it's going to be loud. I imagine the media are going to pin it as, you know, the Battle of Britain and England v Scotland. So it's obviously going to have that little bit of niggle between the fans, isn't it? Because it's just that rivalry of the two different countries, really. So yeah, I think it's going to be a real good, loud atmosphere at Villa Park. It should be like a real good occasion as well.
Yeah, really looking forward to going down tomorrow. It's obviously the first time Aston Villa and Celtic have ever faced each other as well. So just before I let you go, look, I suppose the question is, how do you see the game playing out? You guys have obviously still got ambitions of making the top eight. I suppose so, but it's a very, very slim chance for us. How do you think it'll go tomorrow?
Yeah, I hate doing this bit of these episodes because it's like you get to the arrogant part where you're backing your team and like diminishing the other. But I think it'll be a tough game. I think it'll be tight early on. But I just think if we're at it with our creative players, and like you mentioned, like your front line it's not quite there as probably what it could be in, say, 3 or 4 weeks' time when you're allowed to play Jota in the Champions League, etc. So I think with that probably weakens your front line. And I think the way we play is that we're all about trying to control the game, have possession. And I think, I hope we win, and I think we might win. But yeah, it's tough to call really, because you come with probably a little bit more freedom of knowing that you're sort of into the next phase. So there's sort of there's no pressure, is there? So I think that's probably a good place to be. Whereas we sort of, if we win, we know what could possibly be at stake. So I think there's that pressure, and I just hope that Villa are able to sort of step up, really.
All right, good man, Luke. Thank you for joining us. Brilliant insight. Enjoy the game tomorrow. That's it for the preview show. I'll be back very soon with the starting 11 predictions, so join us for that. Thank you.